Welcome back to Liberty Coin USA Coin Collectors. Today, we are taking a fascinating look at the United States wheat penny, the famous 1-cent coin that could be hiding an incredible story in your collection. The Lincoln wheat penny was introduced in 1909, featuring President Abraham Lincoln on the front and two wheat ears on the reverse. The wheat design remained on the coin until 1958, making this one of the most recognizable and collectible American pennies in history. Let's get started. First up, imagine discovering a small 1-cent coin from 1958 that has been sitting unnoticed in an old collection drawer for decades. And now you begin to wonder if this little piece of American history could be worth serious money today. The 1958 Lincoln wheat penny with the D mint mark is an especially interesting coin because it belongs to the final year of the famous wheat cent series. This coin was produced at the Denver Mint, and the small D mint mark can be found beneath the date on the front of the coin. At first glance, it may appear to be nothing more than an old penny, but collectors understand that condition, history, rarity, color, and unusual characteristics can all influence the market value of a coin. The 1958 date is also historically important, because after this year the United States Mint stopped producing the traditional wheat reverse for regular circulation and introduced the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. This makes the 1958 wheat penny the final regular issue of one of the most recognizable coin designs in American history. In this video, we will explore the background of this fascinating coin and explain what makes the 1958 D wheat penny interesting to collectors today. The Lincoln wheat cent first appeared in 1909 and was created to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The famous portrait of Lincoln was designed by Victor David Brenner and became one of the most recognizable portraits ever placed on an American coin. The reverse showed two wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. Because of those wheat ears, collectors eventually began calling these coins wheat pennies or wheat cents. The design remained in production for nearly 50 years and millions of Americans used these coins in everyday purchases. By the time 1958 arrived, the wheat cent had already been a familiar part of American life. The 1958 issue therefore represents the end of a major chapter in United States coinage history. Collectors who build complete Lincoln cent collections often consider the final wheat cent especially meaningful, because it connects the early Lincoln cent era with the new Memorial cent era that began the following year. The D mint mark is another important feature of the coin, because it identifies the facility where the penny was produced. The D stands for the Denver Mint, which was one of the major United States mint facilities responsible for producing circulating coins on the 1958 D wheat penny. The mint mark appears on the obverse below the date. When examining a coin, collectors should make sure that the letter D is genuine and properly positioned, because the mint mark is an important part of identifying the issue. The 1958 D had a reported production of approximately 800,953,300 pieces, which means that this particular issue was not produced in a tiny quantity. Because such a large number was struck, many examples have survived to the present day. This is an important point for anyone who believes that every old penny must automatically be extremely rare. A coin can be more than 60 years old and still be relatively common, when the original production was very large, and many examples survived the composition of the 1958 D wheat penny. Is also interesting to collectors. The coin was made primarily from copper and has the traditional bronze appearance associated with many classic Lincoln wheat cents. A normal example measures approximately 19 millimeters in diameter and weighs around 3.11 grams. The edge is plain and does not have the ridges found on many other American coins. The obverse displays Abraham Lincoln facing right with liberty, and in God we trust surrounding his portrait, while the date appears below. On the reverse you can see the two wheat ears along with 1 cent and United States of America. These design elements provide several useful ways to confirm that the coin is an authentic 1958 wheat cent. Collectors also pay attention to the overall texture and color of the surfaces, because copper coins can change appearance naturally over many decades. Now, let us discuss the fine condition mentioned for this coin, because condition is one of the most important factors in determining collectible value. A coin graded fine has experienced significant circulation, but still retains recognizable design details. On a fine 1958 D wheat penny, the portrait of Lincoln will normally show noticeable wear on the highest areas of the hair, cheek, and beard. Some of the smaller details may have become smooth because of years of contact with other coins and surfaces. The reverse will also show wear on the wheat ears and other raised portions of the design. Even though the coin has circulated, it should still have enough detail for collectors to identify the major features clearly. Small scratches, marks, and areas of discoloration can also be present. Fine condition does not mean perfect condition, and it does not mean the coin is uncirculated. Understanding this difference is essential, because the price difference between circulated and high-grade examples can be very large. Many people search online after finding an old wheat penny and immediately see headlines claiming that a particular coin could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. This can create unrealistic expectations for ordinary circulated coins, The truth is that the majority of 1958D wheat pennies are not extremely rare. The large production number means that normal circulated examples can still be found by collectors today. A fine condition example usually has a modest market value rather than a huge value in the hundreds of dollars. Current price guides can place ordinary circulated examples at amounts only somewhat above face value, depending on grade and market conditions. This does not make the coin uninteresting because value is only one part of collecting. The historical significance of being the final wheat cent year gives the coin a special place in Lincoln cent history. For many collectors, owning a well-preserved 1958D is more important than simply owning an expensive coin. One of the most important things to understand about copper coins is the role of color. Collectors commonly use descriptions such as brown or BN for coins that have mostly brown coloration. Red, brown, or RB is used for coins that retain a mixture of original red and brown color, while red or RD describes coins that have preserved much more of their original copper color. These color designations can have a major influence on high-grade Lincoln cents. A heavily circulated fine coin will normally show brown coloration because years of handling and exposure have changed the original appearance. A beautiful uncirculated coin with strong original red color can be much more desirable to advanced collectors. This is one reason why two 1958D pennies with exactly the same date and mint mark can have very different prices. The condition and color must always be considered before making a value estimate. Another feature that collectors should carefully inspect is the possibility of a mint error or unusual variety. Most 1958D wheat pennies are standard examples and do not contain valuable errors. However, collectors sometimes find coins with unusual doubling, die characteristics, die cracks, die chips, or other abnormalities. A genuine recognized error can potentially increase the value considerably. When compared with an ordinary example, the important word here is genuine, because many strange-looking marks on old coins are actually caused by damage that happened after the coin left the mint. Scratches, dents, environmental damage, and chemical reactions can make letters or numbers appear unusual. For this reason, collectors should never assume that a strange mark automatically means a rare mint error. If an unusual feature appears significant, it can be compared with trusted references or examined by a professional grading and authentication service. The date 1958 itself has an important place in American numismatic history because it marks the end of the wheat reverse. Design in 1959, the United States Mint introduced the Lincoln Memorial Reverse to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The new design replaced the wheat ears that had appeared on Lincoln cents since 1909. This transition makes the 1958 wheat penny historical and point collectors who study the Lincoln cent series often enjoy comparing the final wheat cent with the first memorial cents that followed the 1958D. Therefore represents more than just a single year of coin production. It represents the closing of an era that lasted almost half a century. When you hold one of these coins, you are holding a small object that circulated through American communities during a very different period of the country's history. The Denver Mint production figure is also important when discussing rarity and value. Approximately 800,953,300 examples of the 1958D wheat cent were struck. That number is large enough that the normal coin should not be considered extremely scarce. However, the number of surviving coins in different grades can vary considerably. Millions may have been produced, but few examples may remain in excellent condition because coins spent decades in circulation and were exposed to scratches, dirt, moisture, and other forms of damage. This is why collectors focus heavily on grade. Date can become much more interesting when the example has unusually strong preservation. In the same way, a coin that was produced in a large quantity can still command a premium when it reaches an exceptional certified grade. Rarity therefore needs to be understood in context and should never be judged only by the original mintage. Now let us talk about the current market value in dollars for a normal 1958D wheat penny in fine condition based on current price guide information. A typical circulated example in fine condition may be worth roughly several tens of cents rather than hundreds of dollars. Some guides place fine examples around the 35 to 40 cent range, although actual selling prices can change based on the exact grade appearance, and buyer demand. Lower grade examples can be worth only a small amount above face value, or better preserved coins can bring higher prices. Uncirculated examples can reach dollar values, and exceptional certified examples can sell for much more. This wide range is why it is dangerous to give one single value to every 1958D wheat penny. The exact condition and characteristics of the individual coin must always be considered before estimating its market value. Auction records can sometimes make the story even more interesting, because exceptional examples can sell for prices far above ordinary circulated values. Professional grading services have recorded strong auction results for high-grade 1958D wheat cents, including examples that have sold for hundreds of dollars, and in some cases more than $1,000. These results are associated with exceptional condition and certification rather than a normal fine condition coin. This distinction is extremely important for viewers who discover a 1958D penny at home. If your coin has obvious circulation, well, then you should not compare it directly with an extremely high Grade auction example, a rare high-grade result does not mean every coin with the same date and mint mark has the same value. Coin collecting is a condition-based hobby, and even small differences in preservation can create major differences in price. If you have a 1958 wheat penny at home, there are several simple things you should do before deciding whether to sell it. First, examine the date carefully and make sure the coin really says 1958. Next, look below the date and confirm the presence of the D mint mark. Then inspect both sides under good lighting and look for unusual doubling, cracks, chips, or other features. Check whether the coin has heavy wear or whether it retains strong original detail. Look at the color and surface quality. But remember that natural aging is normal for copper coins. Most importantly, do not clean the penny. Cleaning can create scratches and unnatural surfaces and can reduce the coin's desirability to collectors. Keeping the coin in a proper protective holder is usually a much better choice than polishing it or using chemicals to make it appear brighter. The historical story behind this little penny is perhaps its most valuable feature. Think about how many hands a 1958 wheat penny may have passed through during its life. It could have been used in a store or carried in a pocket or placed inside a cash register before eventually being saved by someone who recognized its historic design. In 1958, the United States was entering a period of major technological and social change, and this tiny copper coin was part of everyday commerce during that time. More than 60 years later, it has become a collectible reminder of that era. The coin may have only been worth 1 cent when it was first released, but its historical identity has given it a place in the collections of lDON'T cent enthusiasts around the world. This is one reason old coins can be fascinating even when their financial value is modest. So is the 1958 wheat penny a rare coin with a huge value in dollars for a normal fine condition example? The answer is generally no. It is an old and historically important coin, but its large original mintage means that it is not automatically a rare treasure. A typical fine example may be worth around a few tens of cents according to current guide information, while exceptionally preserved certified examples can be worth considerably more. The biggest opportunity comes from discovering an unusual variety or a coin with extraordinary grade and color. That is why every 1958 should still be examined carefully rather than immediately dismissed. The final year status makes it an attractive collectible, and the famous wheat reverse gives it strong historical appeal. If you have one in your collection, you own a genuine piece of the final chapter of the lDON'T cent era. In conclusion, the 1958 lDON'T wheat penny is a fascinating little coin with a story that reaches far beyond its 1 cent face value. It was produced at the Denver Mint during the final year of the wheat cent design, and its D mint mark provides an important clue to its origin. Its large mintage means that a normal fine condition example is generally not a high dollar rarity, but condition, color, variety, and unusual mint characteristics can make certain examples much more valuable. The coin also carries the historic portrait of Abraham Lincoln and the famous wheat ears that collectors have admired for generations. If you discover one of these coins, do not clean it, and do not assume that every unusual mark is a valuable error. Examine the date, mint mark, condition, color, and overall appearance carefully. The 1958 may not make every collector rich, but it remains an important final chapter in American coin history, and that historical connection is what makes this small copper cent worth taking a look at. If you enjoy discovering hidden treasures in old coins, then keep watching, because the next penny you examine could reveal a feature that changes. Next up, fascinating coins, the 1956 Lincoln wheat penny with the famous D mint mark. And this is a coin that can attract serious attention from collectors when it appears in fantastic condition. The 1956 wheat penny was produced during an important period in American history, and although millions of these coins were made, certain examples can become much more desirable, and they have outstanding preservation, sharp details, beautiful original surfaces, and strong eye appeal. If you have a 1956 wheat penny with a small D beneath the date, then you may want to take a closer look, because condition can make a major difference in the collecting world, and this coin has several fascinating features that make it worth examining carefully. The Lincoln wheat penny has one of the most recognizable designs in American coin history, and the series began in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. On the front of the coin we see the famous portrait of Lincoln facing to the right with the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" surrounding the design, while the date appears below the portrait. The reverse side gives the coin its popular wheat penny nickname, because 2 wheat ears surround the central wording 1 cent, and United States of America above the denomination is the traditional motto EPLUIBUSUNUM. The design was created by Victor David Brenner and remained on the cent for decades, making the wheat penny one of the most beloved United States coins among collectors today. The 1956 example belongs to the final decade of the wheat penny era, before the design was eventually replaced in 1959. The D mint mark is one of the most important details on this particular coin, because it tells us that the penny was struck at the Denver Mint. The Denver Mint played a major role in producing United States coinage, and coins carrying the D mint mark can be especially interesting when collectors compare production from different years and mint facilities. On a 1956 Lincoln wheat penny, the D can be found below the date on the obverse, and collectors should inspect this area carefully because the mint mark should be clear and properly formed. Another important point is that the presence of a D-mint mark does not automatically make the coin extremely rare. The 1950-60 issue had a substantial production run, which means ordinary circulated examples are relatively accessible. However, coins that survive with exceptional quality can be much harder to find, and that is where the condition of your particular coin becomes extremely important. Now let us talk about the condition, because this is where a normal old penny can become much more interesting to the collector market. A coin that has spent decades circulating through pockets, cash registers, and coin jars can develop scratches, marks, discoloration, and wear on the highest points of the design. A fantastic condition example can look dramatically different from a heavily circulated coin. Collectors often look for strong Lincoln hair details, sharp wheat ears, clean lettering, attractive surfaces, and original color. If the coin has very little evidence of circulation, it may receive a much higher grade than an ordinary example. Coins are commonly evaluated using professional grading standards that range from heavily worn pieces through extremely fine examples, and into the uncirculated grades. When a coin reaches a high uncirculated grade, its value can increase significantly, especially when the surfaces are attractive and the strike is strong. One of the most exciting possibilities with any older Lincoln cent is the discovery of an unusual characteristic or minting error. Collectors carefully examine coins for doubled lettering, unusual die features, repunched details, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other abnormalities that occurred during the manufacturing process. However, it is important to remember that not every unusual-looking mark is a valuable mint. Error damage can occur after a coin leaves the mint, and scratches, dents, cleaning, and chemical discoloration can sometimes create appearances that look unusual to an inexperienced collector. Therefore, a serious evaluation should consider the entire coin, including the date, mint mark, lettering, portrait, wheat ears, edge, and overall surfaces. If you believe your 1950-60 penny has an authentic mint error or an extraordinary variety, professional examination may be worthwhile, because certification can provide confidence and help establish the coin grade. The history behind this penny also makes it special from a historical perspective, because 1956 was a period when the United States was experiencing major changes in technology, culture, industry, and everyday life. The Lincoln wheat penny was already a familiar part of American commerce, and people used these small copper coins for ordinary purchases during a time when prices were very different from today. The penny could pass through thousands of hands before eventually disappearing into a collection or being placed inside a jar decades later. The journey is part of what makes old coins fascinating. When you hold a 1950-60 wheat penny, you are holding an object that was created more than half a century ago, and it may have circulated during an entirely different America. That historical connection gives the coin appeal beyond its monetary value. So what about the current market value in dollars? And could a 1950-60 wheat penny really be worth a large amount of money? The answer depends heavily on grade, color, eye appeal, and whether the coin has a genuine rare characteristic. Most ordinary circulated 1950-60 wheat pennies generally do not bring enormous prices, because the issue is not considered one of the major key dates of the wheat penny series. However, high-grade examples can command stronger prices than worn coins, and exceptional certified pieces can become much more desirable in competitive collecting markets. Prices can change over time, and auction results can vary dramatically between coins that look similar but receive different professional grades. Therefore, it would be misleading to claim that every 1950-60 penny is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, but a truly exceptional specimen should be judged only by its face value. Another major factor is original color and surface quality. Collectors often use color designations when evaluating copper coins, and an original red appearance can be much more desirable than a coin that has turned brown through age and environmental exposure. A 1950-60 penny with strong original color, sharp details, and minimal marks can stand out from ordinary examples, while a coin that has been cleaned may lose collector appeal even if it looks shiny at first glance. This is why you should never polish or clean an old wheat penny in an attempt to increase its value. Cleaning can leave permanent hairline scratches or alter the original surface, and experienced collectors can often recognize these changes immediately. If you discover a beautiful old penny, keep it in a safe holder and avoid harsh chemicals, because preservation is one of the most important parts of coin collecting. If you have a 1950-60 Lincoln wheat penny at home, the best approach is to inspect it carefully under good lighting without damaging the surface. First, confirm the date and locate the D-mint mark beneath the date. Then examine Lincoln portrait and look closely at the hair and facial details. Next, turn the coin over and inspect the wheat ears, lettering, and central design. Look for strong detail and signs of wear, and then check the surfaces for scratches, spots, corrosion, cleaning, or unusual mint-made features. You can also compare the coin with photographs from reputable coin references and auction archives to understand how similar examples have performed in the marketplace. If your coin appears to be in outstanding condition, then professional grading may be worth considering, because an official grade can provide a more reliable assessment than a casual estimate. In conclusion, the 1950-60 Lincoln wheat penny is a fascinating piece of American numismatic history, and while it is not automatically a rare fortune coin simply because it is old, the right example can still be highly interesting to collectors. Its D-mint mark connects it to the Denver Mint, while the classic Lincoln portrait and wheat reverse connect it to one of the most famous coin designs in American history. The biggest difference in value usually comes from condition preservation, color strike, and unusual characteristics. So if you discover one that appears to be in fantastic condition, do not spend it before taking a closer look. Remember that ordinary examples may have modest values, while exceptional high-grade specimens can attract considerably more attention, and the only way to know the true market potential of a remarkable coin is through careful comparison, and when appropriate professional authentication and grading. If you enjoyed this exploration of the 1950-60 wheat penny, make sure to subscribe because another old coin could be hiding in your collection right now, and its story may be far more valuable than you expect. Next up, the 1955 Lincoln wheat penny with the lDON'T mark, and we will explore its history, background, design, condition, rarity, and possible market value in dollars. The 1955 date is an interesting period in United States coin history, because the Lincoln wheat cent was still being produced in large numbers and millions of these coins entered circulation across America. The lDON'T mark tells us that this particular coin was produced at the Denver Mint, which is one of the most important historic United States mint facilities. When a coin survives in uncirculated condition, it can become much more attractive to collectors, because it may preserve the original details and surface quality that were present when the coin left the mint. The value of an individual 1955 wheat penny depends heavily on its grade I appeal, surface quality, color, mint state designation, and whether the coin has unusual characteristics. So while this coin may look like an ordinary 1-cent piece, its condition and history can make it an interesting addition to a serious collection. The Lincoln wheat penny was introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the birth of President Abraham Lincoln. It was the first regular-issue United States coin to feature a real historical person, and the design became one of the most recognizable images in American numismatic history. The obverse shows the portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right with the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" along with the date. The reverse originally displayed 2 wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. This wheat design gave the coin its popular name of wheat penny or wheat cent. The design was created by Victor David Brenner and remained in production until 1958. That means the 1955 wheat penny belongs to the final years of the famous wheat cent series. Collectors often enjoy these coins because they connect modern American history with the early 20th century, and they were used during a period of enormous economic and social change in the United States. The lDON'T mark on a 1955 wheat penny is one of the first details collectors should examine on Lincoln wheat cents. The D indicates production at the Denver Mint. During the 1950s, Denver was responsible for producing enormous quantities of Lincoln cents for circulation across the country. The 1955 wheat penny had a large production compared with many earlier wheat cent issues, which means that the date by itself does not automatically make the coin extremely rare. This is an important point for anyone watching videos about valuable pennies, because online claims sometimes make common dates sound far rarer than they actually are. The real collecting interest comes from the combination of date, mint mark, condition, and unusual characteristics. A circulated example may have relatively modest value, while a high-grade uncirculated example can be worth considerably more. Collectors also examine the strike, because sharply defined lettering, wheat lines, and Lincoln details can make a coin more desirable. Original surfaces and attractive natural color can also influence the final price. Now let us talk about the uncirculated condition mentioned for this coin. An uncirculated coin is generally a coin that has not experienced normal circulation, where although professional grading services divide mint state coins into different grades based on their preservation, a 1955 wheat penny in strong uncirculated condition may show considerable original detail on Lincoln and on the wheat ears of the reverse. Collectors will look carefully at the hair above Lincoln's ear and the cheek and jaw areas, because these regions can show contact marks and weakness. On the reverse, the wheat stalks and lettering should be examined for sharpness. The surface should also be checked for scratches, spots, discoloration, and signs of cleaning. Copper coins can develop different colors over time, and collectors commonly describe them as red, brown, or brown, depending on the amount of original red color that remains. A coin with attractive original red color in a high mint state grade can command a premium compared with a similar coin that has darker or less attractive surfaces. One reason condition is so important is that the difference between an average uncirculated coin and a superb gem uncirculated coin can be dramatic in the collecting market. Professional grading companies examine coins under controlled standards and assign numerical grades that help buyers and sellers compare examples. A coin graded in the lower mint state range may be much easier to find than an exceptionally high-grade example with strong luster, clean surfaces, and excellent strike quality. This means that two 1955 wheat pennies can look almost identical to a casual observer while having very different market values. Collectors therefore use magnification and strong lighting. When inspecting important coins, they look for contact marks on Lincoln's portrait and fields, as well as spots and surface disturbances that might reduce the grade. Another important consideration is whether the coin has been cleaned or chemically altered. Cleaning can damage the natural surface and may reduce collector interest, even if the coin appears bright when Discussing the current market value of a 1955 wheat penny, it is important to understand that there is no single price that applies to every coin. The value can range from a small premium for circulated examples to substantially higher amounts for particularly attractive high-grade certified examples. An ordinary circulated 1955 cent is generally not considered a major rarity and should not automatically be described as a coin worth thousands of dollars. Uncirculated examples can bring stronger prices depending on grade and color. Designation coins with exceptional mint state preservation can be more desirable because high-grade survivors are scarcer than the original production figures might suggest. Auction records and dealer asking prices can also differ significantly. The best way to determine a realistic value is to compare the exact grade and appearance with recent sales of comparable coins. Collectors should be cautious about internet listings that show extremely high asking prices because an advertised price is not necessarily the same as the amount a buyer has actually paid. Another fascinating subject is the possibility of errors and varieties. Collectors frequently examine old Lincoln wheat cents for unusual features such as doubled lettering, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, die cracks, or other mint-produced abnormalities. However, not every unusual-looking mark is a genuine mint error, damage caused after the coin left. The mint can create shapes that resemble varieties or errors. This is why authentication can be important when a coin appears unusual or potentially valuable. The famous 1955 double-die Lincoln cent is a completely different issue from the normal 1955 wheat penny, and it is one of the most famous Lincoln cent varieties in American numismatics. The famous double die was produced at Philadelphia and does not have a D mint mark, therefore a normal 1955 wheat penny should not be confused with the famous 1955 double die cent, simply because both carry the 1955 date. Understanding the mint mark and the specific characteristics of a variety is essential for collectors who own a 1955 wheat penny in uncirculated condition. The next step is careful preservation. Copper coins should be handled by their edges rather than by the obverse or reverse surfaces. Finger oils and moisture can affect the surface over time. A quality coin holder or archival storage system can help protect the coin from unnecessary contact and environmental exposure. Collectors should never polish an old copper cent in an attempt to make it look brighter, because polishing can leave permanent hairlines and unnatural surfaces. Natural original appearance is generally preferred in numismatics. If the coin appears exceptionally sharp and valuable, a professional grading service may be worth considering because certification can provide an independent assessment of condition and authenticity. The cost of grading should still be considered against the potential market value of the individual coin. For a common lower-grade example, professional grading may not make financial sense, while an outstanding high-grade specimen may justify further evaluation. The history behind this coin also makes it interesting beyond its monetary value. A 1955 penny was created during a period when the United States was experiencing major changes in technology, industry, transportation, and everyday life. The coin could have been used in shops, restaurants, vending machines, or household transactions during an era when 1 cent had greater purchasing power than it does today. The Lincoln portrait connected everyday Americans with one of the country's most respected presidents, while the wheat reverse represented a design that had already become familiar to several generations. By 1955, the wheat cent design had been in circulation for more than 4 decades. Only a few years later, the United States Mint would replace the wheat reverse with the Lincoln Memorial reverse, beginning in 1959. This gives the 1955 wheat penny an additional historical appeal, because it comes from the closing chapter of the classic wheat cent era. So what should you do if you have a 1955 wheat penny that appears uncirculated and potentially valuable? First, confirm the date. Look carefully for the D mint mark below the date. Next, inspect the surfaces under good lighting, and avoid touching the fields with your fingers. Look for original luster, sharp details, attractive color, and minimal contact marks. Then compare the coin with reliable grading guides and recent auction results for the same date, mint mark, and grade. Remember that rarity is not determined by age alone, and a coin from 1955 is not automatically worth a fortune simply because it is more than 70 years old. The exciting part of collecting is discovering the difference between an ordinary survivor and an exceptional example. A high-quality 1955 wheat penny can be a desirable piece for Lincoln cent collectors, while its historical story gives it value beyond the face value stamped on the coin. If you enjoyed this exploration of the 1955 wheat penny, make sure to keep checking your old coins, because sometimes the smallest pieces of American history can tell the biggest stories. Next up, a fascinating American coin that many collectors enjoy searching for, and that coin is the 1953 Lincoln wheat penny, 1 cent coin with the D mint mark. This coin is more than just an old piece of copper-colored metal, because it represents an important period in American history, and it carries the classic wheat penny design that has remained popular with collectors for generations. The 1953 wheat penny was produced at the Denver Mint, and the small D mint mark below the date identifies its place of production. When this coin is found in very nice condition, it can attract attention from collectors who are interested in early Lincoln cents. and especially coins that have strong original surfaces, sharp details, and attractive overall appearance. The Lincoln wheat penny was introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the birth of Abraham Lincoln, and it became one of the most recognizable coins in United States history. The original design was created by Victor David Brenner and featured a portrait of Lincoln on the front. On the reverse side, the coin displayed two wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. This wheat design continued until 1958, which means the 1953 D penny belongs to the later period of the famous wheat cent series. During these years, millions of Americans used these small coins in everyday transactions, making penny an important part of ordinary American life. The D mint mark is one of the most interesting features for anyone examining this particular coin. The letter D indicates that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Collectors often check the area beneath the date, because the mint mark can help identify where a Lincoln cent was produced. The 1953 D example is not considered a rare coin, simply because it has a D mint mark, and collectors should be careful when seeing claims that every 1953 D penny is extremely valuable. In reality, this date and mint combination is fairly available in circulated grades. However, condition can make a major difference in value. A worn example may be worth only a small amount, while a high-grade example with excellent surfaces can be considerably more desirable. One of the unique features of the 1953 D wheat penny is its classic Lincoln portrait on the obverse. The image shows Abraham Lincoln facing toward the right with the word liberty along the left side and the date 1953. Below the portrait, the famous motto "In God We Trust" appears above Lincoln. On the reverse side, collectors can see the traditional wheat ears with the denomination 1 cent in the center and United States of America. Surrounding the design, the words EPLURBUSUNUM appear above the denomination. These details create the unmistakable appearance of a wheat penny and help make the series one of the most collected American coin series ever produced. When examining a 1953 D wheat penny in very nice condition, collectors should pay close attention to the amount of wear on Lincoln's hair and facial features. A stronger example will normally show clearer separation in the hair and sharper details around the portrait. The lettering should also remain well defined, and the rims should be complete without major damage. On the reverse, the wheat stalks should have strong detail and the lettering should be clear. Another important factor is the surface of the coin. A coin with heavy scratches, stains, corrosion, or unusual damage can have much less collector appeal than an example with attractive original surfaces. The color of a copper wheat penny can also influence collector interest. Copper cents are commonly described using color categories such as brown or red. Brown and red. A coin that retains a significant amount of original reddish color can sometimes bring a much higher price than a similar coin that is heavily brown or dark. This is particularly important when discussing coins in uncirculated grades. A beautiful 1953 D wheat penny with strong luster, clean surfaces, and attractive color can be much more interesting to collectors than an ordinary circulated example. This does not automatically make the coin rare, but it can make a particular specimen more desirable and potentially more valuable. Another important point is that condition should always be judged carefully. A coin that looks very nice to the naked eye is not necessarily a high-grade coin. Professional grading services examine coins under magnification and consider factors such as strike quality, surface preservation, luster, color, and contact marks. A certified high-grade 1953 D wheat penny can therefore be worth substantially more than an uncertified circulated coin. It is also important not to clean an old coin in an attempt to make it look brighter. Cleaning can leave scratches or unnatural surfaces and may reduce collector value. For this reason, collectors generally prefer coins with natural original surfaces. So what is the current market value of a 1953 D wheat penny? In dollars, the answer depends heavily on grade, condition, color, and whether the coin has been professionally certified. Most circulated examples are generally not high-dollar coins and may trade for only a modest premium over face value or for a small collector amount. Nice uncirculated examples can bring higher prices, and exceptional certified specimens can reach much stronger values, especially when they have very high grades and attractive red color. However, it would be misleading to say that every 1953 D wheat penny is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The big value usually comes from exceptional condition, rarity within the grade, or a significant minting error, rather than simply from the year and D mint mark. Collectors should also inspect the coin carefully for unusual characteristics. Genuine mint errors can sometimes create additional value depending on the type and severity of the error. Possible areas of interest include unusual doubling, off-center strikes, clip planchets, or other recognized minting varieties. However, ordinary, where damaged scratches or discoloration should not be confused with genuine mint errors. If you believe your 1953 D wheat penny has an unusual feature, it can be helpful to compare it with reliable coin references or seek an opinion from an experienced numismatist before assuming that it is a rare error coin. The 1953 D Lincoln wheat penny remains an enjoyable piece for collectors because it connects everyday American history with the classic Lincoln cent design. Although it is not normally considered a rare date, the combination of age, design, condition, and possible high-grade quality can make individual examples interesting. The most valuable Examples are usually those that survive with outstanding preservation and strong eye appeal, so if you have a 1953 wheat penny sitting in an old collection coin jar or family keepsake, do not immediately assume that it is either worthless or extremely rare. Examine the date carefully, check the D-mint mark, study the surfaces, and look at the details on both sides. The real story of the coin is found in its condition and characteristics, and that is what makes searching for wheat pennies so exciting. Finally, the 1953 wheat penny is a wonderful reminder that even an ordinary 1-cent coin can carry a story from another era. Its Lincoln portrait, its wheat reverse, and its Denver mint mark make it instantly recognizable to collectors around the world. While the typical example does not command a huge price, the best preserved specimens can attract significantly more attention in the collector market. If you own one in very nice condition, take a close look before spending it, because its collector interest may be greater than its 1-cent face value. Remember that coin values change with grade, market, demand, certification, and eye appeal, so always compare your coin with recent sales and trusted references before deciding on a price. The 1953 wheat penny may not be a guaranteed fortune, but it is certainly a fascinating piece of American numismatic history, and that is exactly why collectors continue searching for these classic coins today. Next up, the fascinating story of the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny 1-cent coin with no mint mark, and we are going to explore why this small copper coin continues to attract attention from collectors around the world. The 1944 Lincoln wheat penny is connected to one of the most important periods in American history, because it was produced during the final years of World War II, when the United States was heavily involved in a massive global conflict. Millions of Americans were serving overseas, while factories across the country were producing equipment for the war effort, and even ordinary coins were affected by the demands of the wartime economy. The 1944 penny is especially interesting because it followed the unusual 1943 steel cent, and returned to the familiar copper-based composition that collectors recognize today. When you hold one of these coins, you are holding a tiny piece of the World War II era, and although millions were originally produced, the condition, variety, and unusual characteristics of an individual coin can make a major difference in its collector appeal and potential market value. The 1944 Lincoln wheat penny was part of the famous Lincoln cent series that began in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and the design became one of the most recognizable coin designs in American history. The front of the coin shows the portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing to the right with the word liberty near the upper left side, and the date 1944 on the lower right side, while the motto "In God We Trust" appears above his portrait on the reverse. We see the classic wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America with EPLURBUSUNUM above the design. This wheat reverse is one of the features that makes these old cents so popular, because it instantly identifies the coin as part of an earlier generation of American money that circulated for decades before the Lincoln Memorial reverse replaced it in 1959. The 1944 issue therefore represents an important chapter in the history of the Lincoln cent, and it remains a favorite among collectors who appreciate historical American coinage. One of the first things collectors notice about a 1944 Lincoln wheat penny is whether or not it has a mint mark, and this is extremely important, because a 1944 penny without a mint mark was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, while coins produced at Denver normally carry a D mint mark, and coins produced at San Francisco normally carry an S mint mark. The absence of a mint mark on the 1944 Philadelphia issue is completely normal, and should not automatically be interpreted as evidence that the coin is an extremely rare variety. The Philadelphia Mint produced a very large number of Lincoln cents during 1944, and millions of these coins entered circulation across the United States over the following decades. This means that a normal 1944 penny without a mint mark can still be a wonderful collectible, but the real question is, what condition is the coin in, and does it have any unusual characteristics that separate it from the ordinary examples that collectors encounter? The history becomes even more fascinating when we look at what happened to the Lincoln cent during 1943, because copper was considered strategically important during World War II, and the United States Mint experimented with a different composition for the cent in 1943. Instead of using the traditional bronze composition, the Mint produced cents on zinc-coated steel planchets, and these famous 1943 steel cents became an unusual part of American numismatic history. The steel composition was intended to conserve for military purposes, but the new coins created several practical problems, because they could be confused with silver-colored coins, and they could also develop problems when the protective zinc coating was damaged the following year. The Mint returned to a copper-based composition for the Lincoln cent, and this created the possibility of leftover steel planchets from 1943 accidentally being used for 1944 cents. This accidental combination is one of the reasons 1944 Lincoln cent can become extremely valuable when the correct characteristics are present. Now, let us talk about the most important word in the title of this video, which is brilliant condition. Because condition can completely change the way collectors look at an old wheat penny. A coin that has survived since 1944 with very little wear and strong original surfaces can be much more desirable than an example that spent many years circulating through pockets cash. Registers and vending machines collectors carefully examine the highest points of the design, because these areas normally show where first. They also examine the fields of the coin for scratches, dents, spots, stains, and other surface problems. Original mint luster is another important factor because an attractive original appearance can increase collector demand. A coin that looks bright and fresh can be exciting to discover, but collectors should be careful because brightness does not always mean originality. Coin that has been cleaned or artificially brightened may actually be worth less than a naturally preserved example. The color of a copper Lincoln cent is another major factor that can influence its value, and collectors generally encounter designations such as brown, and red. When dealing with certified copper cents, a coin that has developed a darker brown appearance over the decades can still be collectible and attractive, but an example that has preserved a large amount of its original red coloration can be considerably more desirable, especially in high mint state grades. This is why two 1944 Philadelphia pennies that look similar to an inexperienced collector can have dramatically different values. When examined by professional graders, one coin may have noticeable wear and brown surfaces, while another may have sharp details, original luster, and attractive red coloration. The grading process attempts to determine the condition and authenticity of the coin, and professional certification can provide collectors with greater confidence. When a coin appears to have significant value, the normal 1944 Philadelphia Lincoln wheat penny is not considered an extremely rare coin simply because it has no mint mark, and this is one of the most important facts to understand before discussing huge dollar values. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 1,435,000,000 1944 Lincoln cents, which means that a large number were originally made. However, the survival rate of coins in different grades is not the same. Many examples were heavily circulated and became worn, scratched, dirty, or damaged over the decades, while coins that remained in excellent condition are much harder to find. This creates the idea of condition rarity, where the date itself may be common, but an exceptional example can still be scarce. Collectors often search for coins that combine a common date with extraordinary preservation because high-grade coins can attract strong competition, especially when they have excellent color, strong strikes, and clean surfaces. When discussing the current market value of a 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny, it is important to avoid claiming that every example is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, because the actual market depends on the exact coin and its condition. An ordinary circulated 1944 Philadelphia cent may be worth only a modest amount above its 1 cent face value, while a better preserved example can bring several dollars or more, and high-grade certified examples can bring substantially higher prices according to published grading and price information. The strongest examples with exceptional grades and attractive original red color can reach much higher values than ordinary circulated pieces. This means that the phrase brilliant condition in a coin listing should always be examined carefully, because sellers may use attractive words to describe a coin. Without professional certification, collectors should focus on measurable characteristics such as grade, surface quality, color, strike, and authenticity, rather than relying only on exciting descriptions. One of the most important possibilities associated with the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny is the famous 1944 steel cent error, and this is where the story becomes truly extraordinary. A small number of 1944 cents were accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets that were intended for the 1943 steel cents. These coins are extremely unusual because the mint had already returned to the copper-based composition for normal 1944 cents. A genuine 1944 steel cent, therefore, represents an important transitional error connected directly to the wartime change in coin production. The Philadelphia examples are particularly interesting because they may appear without a mint mark, just like normal Philadelphia cents. But the physical appearance and weight can be very different. A genuine steel example should have the silver-gray appearance associated with the 1943 steel cent rather than the normal copper color of a standard 1944 cent. If someone believes they have discovered a 1944 steel cent, the first step should be careful examination, rather than immediately assuming that the coin is a fortune waiting to be sold. A normal 1944 copper cent weighs approximately 3.11 grams, while a steel planchet weighs approximately 2.70 grams, according to published numismatic information. This difference can be an important clue, but weight alone should never be treated as complete authentication, because altered coins, counterfeit coins, and damaged coins can create misleading characteristics. Collectors should also examine the surface color, magnetic properties, dimensions, and overall appearance, and the safest approach for a potentially valuable example is professional authentication by respected grading service. A genuine 1944 steel cent can be worth dramatically more than a normal 1944 copper cent, and documented auction results show that exceptional examples have reached very high prices. Another interesting feature to examine is the overall strike quality of the coin, because some Lincoln cents can show stronger details than others due to differences in striking pressure and die condition. On well-struck 1944 penny, the details of Lincoln portrait can appear sharp and clear, While the wheat ears on the reverse can show strong separation and definition, collectors also look closely at the lettering. Because damaged or worn letters can provide clues about circulation and condition, the rims should be examined as well, because major damage around the edge can reduce desirability. A brilliant coin with a strong strike and clean surfaces can be much more attractive than a coin with grayed but unattractive marks and spots. This is why experienced collectors do not judge a coin only by its date. They study the entire piece from the obverse to the reverse, and from the rim to the smallest details of the design. The market for collectible coins can also change over time, and this is another reason why the value of a 1944 Lincoln wheat penny should not be treated as one fixed number. Auction prices can vary depending on the quality of the coin, the reputation of the grading service, the demand from collectors, and the specific circumstances of the sale. A coin that sells for a certain amount at one auction may sell for a different amount at another auction, and exceptional coins can sometimes create bidding wars when multiple collectors want the same piece. This is particularly true for rare errors and top-grade examples of common dates. Therefore, when you see an online video claiming that every 1944 penny is worth thousands of dollars, it is important to investigate the actual evidence behind that claim. The coin may be referring to an extremely rare error rather than an ordinary 1944 Philadelphia wheat penny. There are also several mistakes that new collectors should avoid when examining an old wheat penny. The first mistake is cleaning the coin, because many people believe that removing dirt or discoloration will make an old coin more valuable, but professional collectors generally prefer original surfaces, and cleaning can leave scratches or unnatural surfaces that reduce the coin appeal. Another mistake is using harsh chemicals or polishing materials, because these methods can permanently alter the surface. Another mistake is assuming that the absence of a mint mark means that the coin is automatically rare. As we have explained, a normal 1944 Philadelphia cent should not have a mint mark. The real excitement comes from unusual errors, exceptional grades, and verified varieties. Collectors should also avoid relying entirely on online asking prices, because a seller can list a coin for any amount, but an asking price does not necessarily mean that the coin actually sold for that amount. If you have a 1944 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark, and you believe that it is in brilliant condition, the best approach is to preserve the coin carefully and examine it under good lighting without touching the surfaces unnecessarily. Look at the date and confirm that it is actually 1944. Then examine the area beneath the date to verify that there is no D or S mint mark. Next, inspect the color and determine whether the coin appears naturally copper-colored or unusually silver-colored. If it looks silver and weighs around 2.70 grams, then the coin may deserve further investigation, because a possible 1944 steel cent is dramatically different from an ordinary copper example. You can also compare the coin with reliable photographs and reference information from established numismatic organizations, and if the coin appears unusual, then professional authentication can be worthwhile, because a genuine rare error can have a completely different market value from an ordinary wheat cent. The most exciting lesson from the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny is that rarity is not always obvious when you first look at a coin. A small 1-cent piece can carry a history connected to World War II, the Philadelphia Mint, wartime metal shortages, and one of the most famous transitional errors in American coinage. A normal 1944 no mint mark penny may be a common Philadelphia issue, but an exceptionally preserved example can still be desirable, and a genuine 1944 steel error can move into an entirely different level of rarity and value. This is why collectors learn to examine every detail rather than judging a coin by its age alone. The difference between an ordinary coin and an extraordinary coin can sometimes be found in its weight, composition, color, grade, or a tiny manufacturing mistake that happened more than 80 years ago. So before you spend or sell that old 1944 Lincoln wheat penny, take another careful look, because what appears to be an ordinary 1-cent coin may still deserve a place in a collection. And if the coin has brilliant original condition, strong details, attractive color, and especially an unusual steel appearance, then it could be worth investigating further. Remember that a 1944 penny without a mint mark is normally a Philadelphia issue, and the lack of a mint mark by itself does not make the coin extremely rare, but certified high-grade examples can bring premiums, while genuine 1944 steel transitional errors are among the most exciting possibilities connected with this date. The best way to discover the real value is through careful examination, accurate weighing, professional authentication, and comparison with verified auction results, and that is what makes coin collecting so exciting, because sometimes the smallest object in an old box, jar, drawer, or collection can open the door to a fascinating story from American history and possibly reveal a coin that collectors have been searching for. Thanks for watching.